Have you bought this crochet kit from Kmart? Are you completely confused by the instructions? If so, know that you're not alone. Throw the instructions away and watch this tutorial instead. This is part 1 of the tutorial where I'll show you how to make this cute little Christmas pudding. Be sure to subscribe for part 2 where I cover the reindeer. This is a very beginner friendly tutorial, however I do assume you know how to do a chain stitch and a single crochet. If this is your first time picking up a crochet hook, take a look in the description where I've included some links to some beginner friendly tutorials for those stitches. Otherwise I'll show you everything else that you need to know to make the reindeer and little Christmas pudding. So this is everything that you get included in the kit. Something to note about the crochet hook that they use. The size that's printed on it is wrong. It says it's a 4mm on this end and a 3mm on this end. However, this is more like a 3 and this end more like a 2.5. It's also quite hard to use, this crochet hook, I find. So for this tutorial, I'll be using my own Clover & More in the size 2.5mm. So if you're also using your own crochet hook, make sure to grab a 2.5. If you're using this crochet hook, then you want to use the smaller end, the end that says 3mm. I would suggest as well, you might want to put a little bit of coloured tape or something on this end. I found when I was using this crochet hook, I would often forget which end I was using or would accidentally start working with the other end. Okay, we're going to start with the Christmas pudding. So for that you need the dark brown yarn. And you want to start with a magic circle. Don't worry if it takes you a few times to get the magic circle right. It is really tricky, especially for beginners. So you want to hold your yarn tail between your thumb and first finger with the yarn tail facing down, and then wrap it around your fingers underneath and over the top as a cross, and just hold it in place with your third finger there. Then insert your hook under this first strand, grab the second strand, pull it through and twist it up so you're sitting on top, like so. Then you want to grab this strand and pull it through the loop on your hook. And that's a magic circle. And you'll know you've made it the right way if when you pull on the yarn tail the circle gets smaller. But don't close it up too much yet because we need to stitch into it first. To start our Christmas pudding we want to do 6 single crochets. So when you're working into a magic circle, it's just like doing a normal single crochet, but instead of inserting your hook into the stitch, you insert it into the middle of the circle, like so instead. And then do a single crochet as normal. You want to use your stitch marker to mark this as the first stitch in our row. So use a stitch marker, you just want to insert the prong under both prongs of the V. Like so. And you can lock it in place so it doesn't come undone. So that's our first single crochet. Now we just want to do 5 more. Once you've done your 5 single crochets, you can just pull on the yarn tail and it will close up into a little loop like so. Now for round 2 we're going to do 6 increases. So an increase just means you're doing 2 single crochets into the very same stitch. So we do our first stitch back into the stitch that had the stitch marker, and we'll do a single crochet. Now we want to move our stitch marker because this is our new first stitch of round 2. And then we're going to do another single crochet back into the very same stitch. That's our first increase. And we're going to repeat that for every other stitch. So we want to do 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet into each stitch. So by the end of round 2 you should have 12 stitches because you've done 2 single crochets into each of the 6 stitches from round 1. Now for round 3 you will alternate between single crochets and increases. So into the first stitch you'll do a single crochet, move your stitch marker, then move on to the second stitch where we'll do an increase, so 2 single crochets into that second stitch. A single crochet into the third, and an increase into the fourth. And just keep continuing this pattern around, alternating between single crochets and increases. So now you should have 18 stitches by the end of row 3. For row 4 we will do a single crochet, an increase, and then a single crochet. So single crochet to the first stitch, move your stitch marker, and increase into the second stitch. So we'll do 2 single crochets into that stitch, single crochet into the third, and then we'll repeat that pattern. So another single crochet into the fourth stitch and increase into the fifth. And a single crochet into the sixth, and just continue that pattern around. For round 5, we'll do 3 single crochets and then an increase. So single crochet, single crochet, single crochet, increase. You'll repeat that pattern 6 times and have 30 stitches by the end of row 5. For row 6, you will do 2 single crochets and increase, then 2 single crochets. So single crochet, increase, single crochet. You'll repeat that pattern 6 times and have 36 stitches by the end of row 6. And then for row 7, you'll do 5 single crochets followed by an increase and repeat that pattern 6 times, giving you 42 stitches. And I'll meet you back here at the end of row 7. Okay, once you're at the end of row 7, you should have something that looks like this. Now your work has probably had a tendency to curl up like so. One thing to keep in mind is that this side is actually the right side of the work and this side is the wrong side. And the way that you can tell is that the initial tail pokes through on the wrong side of the work. So this is actually the side that will be facing out in our Christmas pudding, even though it's kind of curling the other way. Now for rows 8 through to row 14, we're just going to be doing 42 single crochets all the way around, so no increases. And this is what's going to start to give the height to our Christmas pudding. Make sure to move your stitch marker at the start of each round so that you don't lose your place. And I'll see you back here at the start of row 15. And once you finish row 14, now is a good time for us to weave in our initial yarn tail. So to secure your work whenever you're not using it, you just want to pull up a big loop and then insert a stitch marker into that loop. And then you can pull that tight and it will keep your work from coming undone. Now what we want to do is actually weave in this initial yarn tail so that our magic circle doesn't come undone. So the first thing you want to do is actually flip your work so the wrong side of the work is showing. So the wrong side of the work is the side that has the tail coming out of it. So just flip it through to the wrong side. Then you want to thread your yarn tail onto your tapestry needle. They include a plastic one in the kit. I find it really hard to use, so I'm going to use my metal one. And then you just want to pull on your tail so that the magic circle hole is closed up well. And then to weave in our end, we're just going to weave in and through a few of our stitches. There's no kind of perfect way to do this. You just want to make sure that you're working under probably at least 4 or 5 different stitches. And you also want to work in at least 3 different directions. Now you can trim this yarn tail if you want to, but actually you can just leave it loose because we'll be stuffing our Christmas pudding, so that will be hidden inside. Now for row 15, this is where we're going to start to do some decreases, so I'll show you how to do an invisible decrease. But for row 15, we want to start by doing 5 single crochets. And then for our 6th stitch, we want to do a decrease. So to do an invisible decrease, you want to insert your hook under the front loop only of the next stitch. So normally you would be inserting your hook under both prongs of the V, like so, but instead we want to go under the front loop only. Then you want to swing your crochet hook down so that you can get the hook, the head of the hook, under the front loop only of the second stitch, or the stitch after the one that you've just worked into. You'll now have 3 loops on your hook. You want to yarn over and pull through those first 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. And that's an invisible decrease. Essentially we've turned 2 stitches into 1. So we want to continue the pattern of 5 single crochets and then a decrease. So we'll do another 5 single crochets. And then again to do a decrease under the front prong only of the first stitch. Swing your crochet hook down and under the front prong of the next stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then just continue this pattern around of doing 5 single crochets followed by an increase. You'll do that pattern 6 times and have 36 stitches by the end of row 15. Now you know how to do a decrease. You can continue to follow the pattern that's written on the screen. So for row 16 you want to do 2 single crochets, a decrease, then 2 more single crochets. Repeat that pattern 6 times and you'll have 30 stitches by the end of row 16. Row 17 you'll do 3 single crochets followed by a decrease. Repeat that pattern 6 times and you'll have 24 stitches by the end of row 17. For row 18 you want to do a single crochet, a decrease, then a single crochet. Repeat that pattern 6 times and you'll have 18 stitches by the end of row 18. And then for row 19 you want to alternate between single crochets and decreases. You'll have 12 stitches by the end of row 19, and I'll meet you back here then and show you how to close off the pudding. Okay, once you've finished row 19, now we want to stuff our pudding with some fibre fill. Now for row 20 you want to do 6 decreases. Now I'll show you how to do an invisible close. You probably don't need to do an invisible close for the pudding because this top section is going to be hidden by the icing and that will help keep the stuffing in place as well. But I'll show you how to do one in case you do want to make sure that it's extra secure. You just want to cut off a yarn tail and then you want to pull it all the way through. Grab a tapestry needle and thread your yarn tail on. Now we just want to work through the front loops of our final row of stitches. So they're the loops that are closest to you. And you just want to go up through the first loop, down through the second loop, and just continue around for all 6 stitches. And then once you've gone all the way around, you can just pull on that yarn tail and that will close up the gap. Then we just want to secure this yarn tail by weaving in and through a few different stitches. And then once you're happy that that is nice and secure, you can actually just insert your embroidery needle into the body of the Christmas pudding and come out somewhere else and pull it all the way through. And then you can trim off this extra bit of yarn tail and just wiggle it around a little bit to hide that yarn tail. And there's our body of our Christmas pudding. So the next thing we need to make is the icing. So for that you'll want the white yarn, and again we want to start with a magic circle. So hold your yarn tail facing down between your thumb and first finger, wrap it around your first 2 fingers, underneath and over the top. Go under this first strand, hook the second strand and twist it on top, and then grab this strand and pull it through the loop on your hook. And then you're going to do 6 single crochets into the magic circle. And then just pull on your yarn tail to pull your circle closed. And then for row 2 you'll do 6 increases, so 2 single crochets into each of these 6 stitches, and you'll have 12 stitches by the end of row 2. Now you can just follow the pattern that's on the screen, which works in just the same way as how we did the Christmas pudding. So as a reminder, an increase just means 2 single crochets into that same stitch. And I'll meet you back here at the end of row 8 where I'll show you how to do the little splodges. Okay, so once you finish row 8, now we're going to start on the little splodges. So to do that we want to begin by chaining 5. If you are brand new to crochet, have a look in the description where I've included some beginner tutorials on how to do a chain, as well as a single crochet, half double crochet and double crochet. Okay, once you've chained 5, we're now going to work into the second chain from our hook. So this is our first chain, this is our second chain. So you want to insert your hook under the top prong of that second chain from your hook. And we're going to do a single crochet. into the next stitch, we're going to do a half double crochet. So to do that, you want to yarn over before you insert your hook into the next stitch. And you'll yarn over, pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. I'm going to do a half double crochet into the following stitch as well. I don't know if it's just the batch I've got, but this white yarn is pretty horrible to work with. Okay, so this is now our first little splodge done, but we want to connect it back to the main body of our icing. So to do that, we're going to skip the stitch that had the stitch marker in it, which was the first stitch of our row, and we're going to slip stitch into the stitch after that. So to do a slip stitch, you want to insert your hook under that stitch, yarn over and pull through a loop, and you'll have 2 loops on your hook. Then we're going to pull this loop we've just made through the one that was already on our hook. And that's the slip stitch. And now we're going to do our second splodge. So for that, we're going to chain 7 this time. And again, work into the second chain from your hook. And we'll do a single crochet. We'll do half double crochets into the next 2 stitches. We'll do double crochets into the next 2 stitches. So for a double crochet, you want to yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, and then yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. And we'll do that into the next stitch as well. Now we're going to skip 2 stitches, so we'll skip this stitch, and we'll slip stitch into the stitch after that. Next we'll chain 4, working into the second chain from your hook, do a single crochet. Then a half double crochet. Then we're going to do a slip stitch. We'll skip 1 stitch and we'll do a slip stitch into the one after that to join our splodge to the main body. We're going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch after that. Then we'll do single crochets into the next 2 stitches. And 1 more slip stitch. And then we're just going to repeat that, so another 4 chains. Second chain from the hook, single crochet. Half double crochet. Skip a stitch and then slip stitch to the one after that. Slip stitch into the next. Single crochet into the next 2. And then a slip stitch. Then chain 7. Single crochet into the second chain from your hook. Half double crochet into the next 2. Double crochets into the next 2. For the splodge you want to skip 2 stitches, so 1, 2, and then work into a slip stitch into the stitch after that. So you want to chain 4, single crochet into the second stitch from your hook, half double crochet into the next, skip one stitch and then slip stitch into the one after that. Slip stitch into the next stitch, single crochets into the next two, and then slip stitch into the next stitch. That's our icing complete. So now we just want to cut off the yarn tail, leave a decent, like quite a long yarn tail, because we're going to need this one to sew our icing onto our Christmas pudding. And now you just want to weave in your initial yarn tail, so this first yarn tail, but don't weave in this one that we've just cut. And now for the leaf. So we want to do a magic circle again to start the leaf. So hold your yarn tail facing down, wrap the yarn away from you, underneath and over the top. Hook under this first strand, grab the second strand, twist it up, and then grab the strand and pull it through. And then we're going to do 6 single crochets into the magic circle. Pull on your yarn tail to close up your circle. Okay, now we're going to chain 5. And now we want to work into the second chain from our hook. So this is our first one, this is our second one. So you just want to insert your hook into that chain and do a single crochet. Then into the next chain we're going to do a half double crochet. So how to do a half double crochet is you actually want to yarn over before you insert your crochet hook into the stitch, then insert it into that next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. You'll now have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, and that's a half double crochet. Okay, so that's our first little leaf done, and now we're going to do a slip stitch to join this leaf back into our magic circle. So we're going to work back into our very first stitch, so the stitch that has the stitch marker in it. You want to insert your hook into that stitch, and then we're going to do a slip stitch. So a slip stitch, you insert your hook, yarn over and pull through a loop. You'll now have 2 loops on your hook, and then we want to pull this loop that we've just made through the one that was already on our hook, and that's the slip stitch. Okay, we're going to repeat this process again, so we'll do 5 chains. Working into the second chain from our hook, so we ignore the first one, work into the second chain, we'll do a single crochet. Followed by a half double crochet. And a double crochet. Now we're going to slip stitch to join this leaf to the circle. So there's the chain that we chained out of. We're going to skip 1 stitch, so we're going to ignore 1 stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch into the stitch after that. And there's our second leaf. So again, we repeat this process. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Second chain from hook, single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet. We'll skip 1 stitch in our circle and slip stitch into the one after that. And then we'll repeat this one final time for our 4th. And that's our little leaf complete. So to fasten off, we just want to cut a yarn tail, yarn over and pull that yarn tail all the way through and pull to secure. And there's our little leaf. Okay, so to assemble our Christmas pudding, first we want to attach our leaf to the top of our icing. If you haven't already, just weave in your initial yarn tail for your leaf so that your magic circle doesn't come undone. And then you can use this initial yarn tail to sew the leaf into the center of the icing. Now up to you if you want your leaf to sit up and curl up like this, you can leave it as it is. Or if you'd rather it to lay flat on the top of your pudding, you can use this other yarn tail to essentially sew these tips down onto the icing. I think I will leave mine sticking up. So then to secure this to the back, you just want to insert your hook under that initial stitch, but don't pull it all the way through. You just want to leave a loop like so, and then you can insert your needle into that loop and pull it tight to create a knot. You can just trim this tail. And then with this yarn tail, if you're using it to sew your leaf tips down, then you can do that, but if not, you can just use it to doubly secure your leaf. And then you can also just knot these green pieces together. And next we want to secure the icing to the pudding. So I'm going to use my initial yarn tail to start with and just insert that straight through the middle of the pudding and out the other side. And then we can use this long yarn tail to secure the edges of our icing down so they sit nice and flat on the pudding. And then once you've gone all the way around and you're happy that it's nice and secure, you can do the same thing where you just insert your hook all the way through your pudding and pull it out. And then you can just trim these yarn tails and wiggle them into the body of your work. Now the final step for the Christmas pudding is to attach these little berries. The instructions don't actually tell you how to do this, and I think the yarn will be too thick to attach it. One option would be to just attach it with a hot glue gun. I don't have one of those, so I'm just going to thread mine on with a sewing needle and thread. And there's our little Christmas pudding. So next we will make the little reindeer. So make sure to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss part 2 of this tutorial.